Hey Midnight Believers, it is your girl Stacy. I just want to give you guys a quick update about what's been going on in my life, and before I do that, I'll go into a really quick prayer. So dear God, I just pray that you bless this channel and whomever hears it. I pray that you give me the words to say, and that whomever stumbles across this channel will get exactly what they need. Amen. So basically I was doing a video on covenant friendships. What happened was that recently I lost somebody in May, and I lost my grandmother recently about a week and a half ago, and her health declined pretty quickly. So I am comforted in knowing that they're both in heaven and they're no longer in pain, and I'll see them again one day, but of course I'll miss them. So I've been traveling back and forth for the viewing and the funeral, but I'm back and I'm serious. So I just wanted to share my testimony very quickly with you all. It's something I just been feeling on my heart to discuss. So I'm just going to go into my entire journey and how I ended up in North Carolina. So basically what happened was I never saw myself moving to the North Carolina. North Carolina has never been in my radar. I never said, oh, I would love to move to North Carolina and live here one day. Nah. That was not the vision for me. I grew up in New York. I worked as a social worker. I had different jobs. I worked as a therapist. I worked in the psychiatric ER. I worked in inpatient psychiatry. I worked in a high school. I worked at an agency. I worked at a college. That was my last job placement. And I had some really tough jobs. I worked in within the 5 boroughs, and there was a lot of need in all the communities where I worked. With every community where I worked, there weren't enough services. There were a lot of issues taking place. So it was like nitty-gritty social work. Except for, I would say, when I was placed in a college, it was not nearly as intense. In terms of the outreach that we had to do. It was more so intense based on the amount of work we had to do. So I just want to explain my story. So I would say I had some pretty tough jobs. I really did. My first job, I had emergencies happen, like domestic violence, abuse, and I had to intervene and help a family, get to safety. But I would say my most intense job was definitely working in a hospital in Manhattan and doing therapy and working in psych ER and inpatient psychiatry. You saw a lot. I remember one day, just to give you guys a glimpse, okay, of this job. I remember one day I was working in the ER, and typically my colleague, she checks the New York Daily News just to give her New York Times, just to give her just to be aware of what's taking place. So she goes online and reads an article. She was reading the article. Why was my patient in the article? And she was like, you might want to look into this and follow up. That was the intensity of the things that I would deal with. Some stuff you hear on TV, I will be dealing with on Monday that you heard over the weekend that took place. That was how intense the job was. So I was like, yeah, this job is really intense. There's a lot on my plate, more than should be placed in on my plate, and I am not happy. I love serving people, but I am not happy. So I prayed and prayed and prayed. And I prayed to the Lord to open the door, and it did happen. I've been praying for a job within an academic setting for 7 years, y'all. 7 years. And it actually happened. I was interviewed for a job at a college, and I got the job, which was a miracle in itself, because when you're in a college through the city, there are a lot of benefits. Your salary goes up about every year and a half annually. Your retirement's locked in. You get other benefits. There's a union backing you. This is a job that you stay in basically, or move up in. So I was ecstatic. Everything I did, God blessed it. For instance, within the first 9 months of me being there, the coordinator at the time, she asked me to take over the service learning piece, like volunteering. So I was excited. Actually, let me not lie. I had something else I wanted to do, but that's what she wanted me to do. I was more focused on mentorship. Like that was more my passion, but she's like, this is the need that we have right now, and I want you to focus on the service learning piece. And we've volunteered with this organization. I'm gonna connect you to this student who is extremely passionate, and that's basically all I got. And there were like 250 students I had to coordinate with. So God is so good. In my previous experiences, I've had volunteered and I learned, okay, what works and what does not work. And I just said, I'm just gonna take a go and do the best I can, and got open doors with different organizations. Within the first year, when we tried this trial, essentially, of volunteering, we received several awards. I'm talking about like the commissioner, the mayor of New York. I'm talking about the Senate, the city council cited us, myself as well. It was just God. Like, I could not take any credit. It was clearly God. So once we moved forward from there, I remember going to a conference in Florida, and that my friends told me about, and just to spend more time with God, to get closer to him. And when I attended this conference, man, the speakers were speaking and I was feeling God, but one particular speaker, I believe David Papavici, started speaking. I couldn't tell you what he spoke about, but I was done. Like, I was wrecked. Like, God felt on me. Like, I'm like crying. Like, I felt God in a way that I have never felt. Like, his presence was so powerful, I could not even stand up. And I remember what precipitated that experience. I remember I said, God, like, I'll be willing to give up my life for you if need be. It's not something I desire, but if it came down to it, I would do it. And because God's like, will you give everything to me, even your life? And I said, yes, I will do it. And he fell down on me in a way I've never experienced. And I felt God saying, you're going to leave your job in a year. And I was like, say what? Like, what you mean? Like, what are you talking about? So I spoke with my mother about this. I said, Mom, like, I really believe that God is telling me that I'm going to have to leave my job in a year. And she said, are you sure? Or in her words, Stacy, are you sure? You're sure? You have to make sure you're hearing from God. Jamaican family. I said, Mom, that's why I really believe he told me. I'm not good. She's like, you can't just up and leave your job. I was like, I'm not gonna just leave. I'm not a person who just does things spontaneously. I think things through. I'm a thorough person. I am a goal-oriented person. That's what motivates me. That's what drives me. So she so she basically tells me, okay, all right, so you just need to pray and see God. So long story short, I did not think I was hearing from God. I'm like, I'm not even saved. I don't even know the Lord. I can't even hear his voice. Like, I was so dramatic. It was like so ridiculous. God was like, enough with you. So what helped me to get out of that funk was, there was this girl in the hospital and someone asked me to pray with them for that person. And I had completely forgot that I had committed to do this, by the way. Like, I completely forgot. So I said, oh, I can't be praying for anybody because I'm a hot mess. I'm sitting in my room all depressed. And God was like, we need to get up and go. And let me tell you, when we went to the hospital, I ended up going, like, I try to find every excuse. Like, it was raining. I'm like, if you don't need me to make it, and like, it's raining, there's a lot of traffic, it was taking me forever to get there. I'm like, if you want to just go home without me, I'm good. And she's like, no, we'll wait. Great. That's great. So she waited for me. And while she waited for me, there was someone else who was present at the time, and there was a sickly young woman and her family. So we prayed for them. We prayed for healing. And then the young man who was with us, with me and another young female, walked the family into the sinner's prayer. And I was thinking, wow, I would have missed out on God moving in such a powerful way and missed out on 3 souls being saved had I been all in my feelings and selfish and thinking about myself in the moment. So that woke me up. And from then on, God kept doing things and like stirring me up in such a powerful way. I can't explain it. My students would come in and I would just feel the presence of the Lord. And he would tell me, you know, speak to them about me, speak to them about my salvation, pour life into them. I remember an instant where this one young student, she was bilingual, and she was pursuing a degree which will require you to have advanced skills in English. And the advisor essentially told her that, you know, even though she had a very good GPA, very driven, very motivated, he said, you know, your English isn't that great. And her English was not deplorable, but he was like, your English isn't that great. I don't think you should, essentially said it but not said it, you shouldn't pursue this degree. So she was completely distraught. And I felt God gave me a verse for her. I'm going to say I believe it was, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Oh, no. It was the same power that conquered the grave lives in me. Like that verse. So I'm going to reference that down below. I'm just going by my memory right now. And when I gave her that verse, she had her little Bible in her language and in English. I told her to look it up. So she looked it up in her native tongue. And the tears just started streaming down my face. She probably was crying for like 15 minutes and she couldn't talk. And she said that she believed in this. And I said, God, this is crazy because the person next to me is of a different faith. And I don't think they're so pleased with me sharing my faith. But you know, I had to be obedient, even though there was definitely a risk involved because all of our doors were open. That was kind of like our policy. So I know she could hear my conversations. So while we were speaking, she just said she knew that was a God. And I'm saying, if God calls you, he'll equip you and he's going to get you through this. It doesn't matter what an advisor says. It doesn't matter what an advisor tells you. So she was really encouraged by that. And I'm going to bring up one more instance, although there were several. I'm trying to decide now which one I should mention, but I feel led to mention this one, although there are more. There was a young man who's going to be deployed to Afghanistan, and I felt like strongly, like the Holy Spirit's like, you need to tell him about Jesus. So I eventually asked him, what is his faith? And what does he believe in? Because I know he struggles with certain things. And I was wondering if he had something that was helping him to push through. And he said, I just depend on myself. I don't believe in anything. I was never raised that way to believe in a higher power. It's not that I'm an atheist. I was never exposed to that. And that baffled me. I'm like, no one ever talks to you about a faith or nothing? He said, no. Like, so no one ever talked to him about Jesus, Allah, like Buddha, nothing. So I said, you know, for me, I believe in Jesus. That helps me to get through things. That's where my faith, that's what helps me, my faith, to get me through troubled and hard times. And he said, oh, okay. I never thought about that. So I gave him a link to my church so he could listen to sermons. I said, you have to go on this journey on your own, but you're going to need something to push you through. This is what helps me. I gave him some information and sent him a goodie bag and just a book that would encourage him. And he wrote back to me from Afghanistan and he kept in touch with me. We kind of lost contact once I moved, but I definitely want to reach out to him, and maybe I will. I'm gonna pray on that. But he's definitely on my heart, and I think about him. I still have the letters that he sent me. But those were 2 moments that I can recall. There are definitely more. And if you want to hear about that, comment, send me an email, and I will definitely follow up and give you more detail on that. So all these things were happening. God is telling me to pour out everything I can during this season. I'm wondering to God, what is going on with me? I feel like everywhere I go, like for instance, I went to a gas station and there was a young lady I saw at the gas station. God said, speak to that young lady. She's a year older than you. You went to the same high school and I want you to talk to her. And exactly how he said it is how it was. She was a year older than me. We went to the same high school. We never spoke at all in high school. We did not have the same friends. And I was very, very quiet in high school. So there's no way she could have known who I was. So we talked. We ended up praying together at a coffee shop. So God was orchestrating things, and I was getting so wrecked almost on a daily basis. So I said, God, you got some explaining to do. You need to tell me what you want me to do and how would you like for me to proceed. So I went to another conference in New Orleans, Louisiana. And while I was there, I mean, God was moving so powerfully. I went to this conference the year before, so in 2014. In 2015. But in 2016, I went again. And in 2015, I wanted a word from somebody else because I heard that people came out transformed and people had all these words spoken over them, which were accurate from God. And there's no way it could have been contrived. No one knows them there. So I was really excited because I'm like, I sure need a word and direction in my life. And God was like, because you're looking so much for man to give you a word, you're not going to get any. The only thing you'll hear is from me. Which is essentially what happened. Like basically like only one person prayed over me. So and then God spoke to me in a powerful way, but I wasn't mature enough to handle the weight of what he said. So I was really upset. And in due time, I'll explain that. So this year I've been growing and maturing and, coming out of a little of my immature ways from the previous year. And I said, God, I don't care if anybody has a word for me. I just want to hear from you. And so many people spoke over me. So many people told me things about my life. It was incredible. Things that only my family would know. Like, it was crazy. So all this was happening. And a pastor who used to attend my church in New York City, she was like, God is calling you out. We need to talk. So I started saying that I felt led to do ministry. And I started following up with my senior pastor at the time. And he had listed a few ministry schools, and he mentioned the school which I attend now in North Carolina. And for some reason, that school really stood out to me. It really stood out. So I said, I'm going to apply, and if I get in, I'm leaving everything. And that's essentially what happened. I applied to the school. Okay, do part 2 real quick. So I basically applied to the school, and I got in. And it was crazy because although I got into the school, I didn't know anybody from the South. My family, when you look at my family, they're considered to be Northerners, as they see down here in the South. And I only have 2 family members who are living in the South. One cousin in Georgia and another cousin in Florida. So I didn't know anyone. When it came to determining where I should live, like everything was falling apart. The place I thought like, this is it, this is the place, this place is beautiful. Nope, didn't work out. So I had to come back to North Carolina. And once I returned to North Carolina, it literally came about, like everything came into place the end of November, right after Thanksgiving. It was bananas. Like it was so crazy. Because remember, I told you previously that God gave me a year deadline. And I remember praying when I was seeking God on what I should do, what does this mean? Because I completely forgot about the year deadline, but I just knew God was stirring me up in a way that I've never experienced. And I've been saved since I was 6 years old. So I knew it was something different. And while I was praying at my friend's house, they had a group of us. We were all getting together to pray and seek God. And she has a fire pit, and they had logs they were throwing into the fire to feed the fire. And I felt God say, like the log being thrown into the fire, I'm throwing you into the fire. And something told me to count the logs, and it was 6. And it felt like God was reminding me 6 months. Prior to that, there was like 5 months in, but God kept emphasizing 6 months. At a 6-month point that I need to leave my job. So I would say after that fire pit analogy, I was still seeking God on what I should do. So I sought godly counsel, which is important, who you talk to about these things, because I cannot share everything with everyone. But I sought godly counsel, and my pastor directed me to this ministry school in North Carolina. So that's basically what happened regarding that. And it was been a journey, because I prayed to God that I do not want to be the same girl I was in New York. I want to be completely transformed and not waste this entire experience. And that's exactly what God did. I didn't realize or recognize, I should say, the weight of that prayer until God actually started answering it. Because I came down here, I got licensed. I'm like a licensed clinical social worker in New York and North Carolina. I had an interview for a part-time college advisor job. I was like, I got this in the bank, God. Like, you know, when you give me an interview, you usually give me favor and I get in there. So God was like, who told you to do all that? He had new plans for me. I felt like, you know, it says, I am the potter, you are the clay, and that God will mold us and break us to basically whatever he needs me to be. I felt like this was the clay, this was me, and God was like, smash, I'm making you to something else. And I felt every stretching and pulling and breaking. And it was not easy for me, because I'm saying, God, I'm not an 18-year-old spring chicken. I'm a 32-year-old grown woman. So I need direction. Like, what are you doing? I'm not sure. But he's been giving me nuggets, and I've been stepping out in faith and doing what he has called me to do. And I really hope that this is encouraging to someone who is going out in faith and not unsure of what God's telling them to do. Whatever you're passionate about, he's going to bring that out of you and bring you towards it. Because I recognize through this entire process, believe it or not, my heart was starting to detach from social work, and I didn't understand why. I was even looking into working in HR and going back to school. I didn't understand what it was about, but I was starting to feel detached from the field. I always loved serving people. Like, that never changed. I always gave 1,000% regarding that, because that was always in my heart. But the field itself, I was starting to feel detached. I felt like I wanted to do more for God and his kingdom, and I felt restrained within that field and what I can do and what I can say and how I can encourage people. So God was starting to stir me up and transition me and prepare me. Even when I was working in the hospital 5 years ago, I remember that I was saying, I don't feel like living in New York. Like, I'm feeling an itch to live somewhere else. God was preparing me. So then I was saying, I don't feel like doing a job in social work anymore. I don't know what that's about. God was transitioning me for my next journey. Because first of all, you have to check yourself. I was like, I know I'm not a lazy person. So what is this about? I know that's not a characteristic or a trait within myself. So I was able to take that out. Like, I'm not motivated, I'm being lazy. Then I realized God is leading me and pulling me to do something else. So that's basically my story. I really feel like God's really pushing me to do videos and treat this like a job. So I've been doing work, I've been doing research, and more videos are to come. And I pray that whoever's looking at this and saying, I don't know what my purpose is, I encourage you to read Hebrews 11. A lot of people stepped out in faith, not sure about what their next step was, and God did something tremendous in their life. If you look in Genesis and you look at Abraham didn't even know who, basically never said that he had a relationship with Jesus. He just was called by him, and God blessed everything that he did. And it's such an encouraging book to read. And even though he didn't realize the journey, realize where he was going, or recognize know the journey in its totality, God blessed everything he did. He was a wealthy man, and when you look at his sons, each one of his sons, God went to and says, I made a promise to your father, and because of his obedience, I'm blessing you. And that's the legacy I want to leave. I want my future children to be blessed through my obedience, and other people to be blessed through it. I mean, we are all beneficiaries of his obedience. So I hope that encourages someone. God bless. I'll talk to you soon.